All right, today we're going to be learning 6-3 elimination method for solving systems of equations. This is my favorite method out of all three of them. Remember, at first we did graphing, then we did substitution, and I saved the best for last. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so example 1, we're solving the systems, and notice that they give us two equations. What you're going to do first is you are going to put the equations, line them up. Okay, so the x needs to go underneath the x. So right here I'm going to write 3x underneath the 4x, and then minus 6y equals 3. And notice how I have everything lined up. The x's are underneath the x, the y's are lined up, the equal sign is lined up, and then the number, the constant, is lined up. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to look to see if the x's or the y's are opposites. We want them to be opposites here, because what we're going to do is we are going to add them. And we know that whenever we add, that opposites will cancel out. So right here I've got 6y minus 6y. When we add, those cancel out. And then I've got 4x plus 3x, that gives me 7x equals 32 plus 3 gives me 35. Divide by 7, and x equals 5. And then just like we did before on substitution, we have to figure out what the y is. So you're going to take either equation and plug in. So I'm going to just use the second equation here. So I've got 3. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write 5 minus 6y equals 3. So that gives me 15 minus 6y equals 3. Subtract the 15 on both sides. Those are going to cancel out. That gives me negative 6y equals 3 minus 15 is negative 12. Divide by negative 6. And y equals 2. So just like with graphing and with the substitution method, we write our final answer as an ordered pair. So right here our ordered pair is 5, 2. Remember, the x comes first and then the y. So that's how we would do the first, how we would solve systems of equations using elimination. Let's try another example. So right here, example 2, we have negative 3 times one number plus 5 times another number is negative 11. So right now, they're not giving us the equation. We have to come up with the equation when from the word problem. So negative 3 times one number. We don't know what that one number is. So let's call that number x. And then it says plus 5 times another number. We don't know what that other number is, but we're going to call that y. So right here I've got negative 3x plus 5 times y equals negative 11. And then it says 3 times the first number. Remember, our first number here was x. Plus 7 times the other, well, the other number we said was y. So that other one is going to be 3x plus 7 times y equals negative 1. So now we look to make sure that we've got opposites, because what we're going to do is we're going to add here. And negative 3x and 3x, those are opposites. And whenever we add, they cancel out. And then we've got 5y plus 7y. That gives us 12y equals negative 11 minus 1 is negative 12. Divide by 12. And y equals negative 1. So to find the other one, you take one of those equations. Let's go ahead and we can use the second one. Doesn't matter which one though. We've got 3x plus 7 times y. Well, we know that y is -1, so I'm going to put 7 times -1 equals -1. So it gives us 3x. 7 times -1 is a -7, so I write -7 equals -1. Add 7 to both sides. And we get 3x equals 6. Divide by 3. And x equals 2. So on this one, you don't have to write them as ordered pairs. As an ordered pair, just to find the numbers. So what are our numbers? Our numbers are 2 and -1. Okay, let's look at another example. All right, so we've got our two equations. We're going to line them up. Make sure the t's are underneath the t. So if I just write 9r plus 2t equals 22 right below here, you'll see that the 9r would be below the 2t. We don't want that. So I need to take these and switch these two. I wonder what property that is whenever you switch those. It's going to give me 2t plus 9r equals 22. Do y'all know what property that is whenever we switch those? It's called the commutative property. All right, so now, looking at this, do I have any opposites? No. Okay, 2t and 2t, they are not opposites. But if I took this bottom equation and multiplied the entire thing by -1, do this side, and don't forget about this side. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Multiply it by -1. That gives us -2t plus, oh, no, I don't want to write plus. I want to write -9r. -9r, because -1 times 9r gives us -9r. So we write -9r equals -22. And then I'm just going to write the other one right below it. And as you see, it doesn't matter which equation is on top or on bottom. All right, so there we have it. So all I did was I took that second equation. I made sure that the t was underneath the other t, the r was underneath the other r, and then I saw that we do not have opposites, so I multiplied everything on the bottom equation by -1, so now we have opposites here. So now we can add, and we see that the -2t and the 2t are going to cancel out. -9r plus 5r gives me -4r. -22 plus 6 gives me -16. Divide by -4. And r equals 4. Okay, plug it into one of the other equations. Let's go ahead and use the first one. So that gives me 2 times t plus 5 times, instead of r, I'm going to put 4 because we know that 4 is the r, equals 6. So that gives me 2t plus 20 equals 6. Subtract 20 on both sides. 2t equals -14. Divide by 2, and t equals -7. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is we need to write our answer as an ordered pair. So we need to think, which one comes first in the alphabet, R or T? And we should know that R comes first, so that's going to be 4, -7. Final answer. All right, looking to add example 4. Okay, so I'm going to put the second equation below it. So that gives me 2x plus 3y equals -5. So now looking at this, I see nothing that can be opposites. All my numbers are different. Okay, so now I need to think, what do I want to eliminate? And I'm just going to choose the y's. You could also choose the x's if you wanted to, but I'm going to choose the y's. Because I see here I've got a 3y. Well, if I took that and multiplied it by -2, then I get -6y, and then I would have opposites. So I'm going to take this equation here and multiply the entire thing by -2. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So that gives me -4x minus 6y equals -5 times -2 is a +10. And then right below, I'm just going to write the first equation, 5x plus 6y equals -8. The -6y and the +6y, those are going to cancel out. -4x plus 5x, that leaves us with 1x, or we can just write x. And then 10 minus 8 gives me 2. So now we figured out that x equals 2. Take one of the equations, it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to take the second one, so that's 2 times 2, because we know x is 2, plus 3y equals -5. So that gives us 4 plus 3y equals -5. Subtract 4 on both sides. And we've got 3y equals -9. Divide by 3. And y equals -3. So put it together, that gives us 2, -3. All right, let's take a look at example 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and write 3x plus 3y equals 9. Okay, so looking at this one, I'm looking at the x's. I can't multiply 3 by anything to get 4, or to get a -4. And then I can't on the y's, I can't multiply 2 by anything to get 3, or a -3. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to multiply both of the equations. So I'm going to look at the y's, and I'm going to say, okay, I've got 2 and a 3, so I can make one of the y's a 6 and the other one a -6. So that means I'm going to multiply this one. Let's make this one the -6. So I'm going to multiply that one by -3. Well, I got to multiply this side by -3. So that one is going to be my -6y. So that means I want the bottom one to be my +6y. So that means I need to multiply this by 2. And then you also have to multiply this side by 2. So let's see what we end up with. That gives us -12x minus 6y equals -24. And then for the second equation, that gives us 6x plus 6y equals 18. Okay, so now we've got opposites. We can cancel the -6y and the 6y. -12x plus 6x, that gives me -6x. And then -24 plus 18 gives me -6. Divide by -6. And x equals 1. Take it into any of the equations. I'm going to use the second equation, so that's going to be 3 times 1 plus 3y equals 9. So we've got 3 plus 3y equals 9. Subtract the 3. That gives me 3y equals 6. Divide by 3, and y equals 2. Put it all together, and our answer is 1, 2. Final answer. All right, just a couple more examples. Stay with me here, okay? So right here, let's go ahead and do the same thing. That gives us 3x plus 3y equals 24. We need to have opposites. Okay, so think about, what do you want to eliminate here, the x's or the y's? Well, to eliminate the x, we would need the x to be a negative 3x, because on the other equation we have a positive 3x. So let's go ahead and do that. If we multiply this by negative 3, that would give us a negative 3x. So it gives us negative 3x minus 3y equals negative 24. And then the other equation was 3x plus 3y equals 24. Those cancel out. Oh, also notice that these cancel out. Negative 3y plus 3y, those cancel out. So now I've got 0 over here. Negative 24 plus 24, that gives me 0 over here. Does 0 equal 0? Yes, it does. So that means our answer is infinite solutions. So if we were to graph this, what it would look like is you would have one line on top of the other. They're actually the same exact line. All right, example 7. Okay, so let's look at this. We're going to put the second equation right below it. 3x plus 2y equals 6. We need to have opposites, so that means I'm going to multiply this one by a negative 1. Multiply this side by negative 1. And that gives me 3x plus 2y equals 12. And then the other one is negative 3x minus 2y equals negative 6. Okay, so we've got our opposites, so we can cancel this out. But also notice that not only do my x's cancel out, but the y's are canceling out also. So that means I've got 0 on this side, and then on the right side of the equal sign, I've got 6. 0 does not equal 6. That's a no. So that means our answer here is no solution. And what that means, if we were to graph these, the lines would be parallel. They would never intersect. All right, that is the last example that I have for you today. If you have any questions, please let me know in class. And hopefully this was your favorite method out of all 3 of them. Remember, the 3 methods are graphing, substitution, and this one that we did right here is elimination.